You think you know a city until you stand in it, until you walk its streets, until you feel it breathing beneath your feet. Jerusalem. It's not just a place on a map. It's a heartbeat, a history, a wound, and a prayer. And once you enter it, you never leave the same. Chapter 1. A City for Three Faiths. Jerusalem, a name older than memory. A city so small, but so full of meaning. I remember the first time I stood at its gate. The sun was falling, the walls golden, my heart beating fast. Because this was not just a place, it was Jerusalem. They say 3 great faiths were born in this land: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and each one calls this city home. I met an old Jewish man near the Western Wall. He wore a black coat. His beard was white like snow. He touched the wall gently, his eyes closed, and then he whispered something I couldn't hear. I asked him, "Why do you come here?" He smiled. "Because this is where the temple once stood," he said. "My people prayed here 2,000 years ago. We still pray. We are still waiting." Not far from there, bells rang. Church bells, clear, beautiful, strong. I followed the sound and found a narrow street leading to a small door. Inside, it was dark, cool, quiet. A woman lit a candle near the stone floor. She made the sign of the cross and whispered, "Here, he died for us." It was the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Christians believe Jesus was crucified there, buried there, and rose again. I looked around. So many faces. From Africa, Europe, Asia, all holding one hope, one faith, in this one place. But the city does not stop there. Up the hill, shining in the sun, is Al-Aqsa Mosque. I heard the call to prayer, soft but powerful. Allah is the greatest. It echoed across the stones. I removed my shoes, entered the mosque. A boy sat with his grandfather. He held the Quran in his small hands. His voice was pure, clear. After the prayer, the grandfather turned to me. "This mosque," he said, "is the 3rd holiest in Islam. Here, the Prophet Muhammad rose to heaven. We pray because this land is sacred, to our hearts, to our history. 3 places, 3 peoples, 1 city, each one believing, each one loving, each one carrying pain and pride." But I must tell you, Jerusalem is not always peaceful. Sometimes people shout, stones fly, gates close, tears fall. A girl once told me, "My school is on the other side of the wall. Every morning I wait at the checkpoint. Sometimes they let me through, sometimes they don't. I never know why." She looked down, then added, "But I still love my city. I pray for it every day." Jerusalem is like that. It breaks your heart and gives it back. 1 minute, you see a Jewish man dancing in the street, a Torah in his hands. The next minute, a Muslim woman is crying near the mosque. You walk 10 steps and hear 3 different languages: Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, sometimes English, and always silence. The kind of silence that says, "This place is older than you, older than war, older than peace." But here's what I believe. Jerusalem is a mirror. It shows us our love, our fear, our hope, and maybe, just maybe, that is why so many people fight for it, because they see something of themselves in it. One night, I sat on a rooftop, watching the lights of the city. I saw a cross, a minaret, and the golden dome of the rock, all in one view. The stars above, the city below, and I whispered to myself, how can one place carry so much pain and so much peace? The answer never came. Only the wind, softly moving through the stones. And then I knew. Jerusalem is not here to answer questions. It is here to remind us that faith is deep, that love is strong, that history does not forget, and that sometimes, in a city of fire, faith still burns brighter. Chapter 2. Ancient Stones, Eternal Dreams. The first time I walked into the old city, I felt like I was stepping into a memory. The streets were narrow, stone walls on both sides. Shops were small, full of colors, smells, voices. And under my feet, the stones, smooth, worn, thousands of years old. I stopped, looked down, and I thought, who walked here before me? A guide walked by, his voice soft but full of passion. He said, King David ruled here. King Solomon built the temple. Prophets walked these roads. Jesus carried a cross through this path, and Muhammad saw the city in his night journey. I felt chills, because every corner, every stone, was part of a story, a deep, old story, still alive. We turned a corner and entered the Jewish quarter. There, children were playing, running through alleyways, laughing, free. But next to them, men stood at the western wall, heads bowed, praying, rocking back and forth. The same wall, for 2,000 years, still standing, still holding the dreams of a people. One man whispered, "We pray here, for the past and the future." Later, we passed under arches and into the Muslim quarter. Here, the sounds changed. The call to prayer echoed above us, clear, calm, strong. The market was alive. Spices, olives, old books, carpets. But then the guide stopped, pointed to a quiet place. Here, he said, is the Via Dolorosa, the path of suffering, where Jesus walked to his death. And suddenly, everything felt heavy. Steps, shadows, history. We moved on to the Christian quarter, inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It was dark. Candles flickered. Smoke filled the air. People kissed the stone where they believed Jesus' body was laid. Some cried, some sang, some just stood in silence, as if time had stopped. And I understood something. This was not just history. It was faith, burning quietly for centuries. Outside, the light was fading. Jerusalem was turning gold again, as it always does. We climbed some steps and saw the dome of the rock. It was shining, bright, proud. Even from far away it spoke, not in words, but in spirit. This city, it seemed to say, has seen it all. Wars, peace, kings and empires. The Romans came and left. The Byzantines came and left. Then the Crusaders, the Mamluks, the Ottomans, the British. Each one thought they could hold the city, control it. But Jerusalem, it belongs to no one, and to everyone. At sunset, I sat on a low stone wall. The air was cooler now. Children still played, but the noise was softer. I looked at the stones again. Some were cracked. Some were smooth. Some were broken. Like people, each one was different, but together they made a road. I ran my hand over one, and I thought, how many dreams have walked this path? Dreams of peace, dreams of power, dreams of home. Some dreams still live. Others were lost. But the city? It remembers. Even when people forget, even when the world moves on, Jerusalem remembers. Before I left that night, I met a young man. He worked at a cafe. He said, "My grandfather lived here. His grandfather too. This city is in our blood." I asked him, "Do you think there will ever be peace?" He looked at the sky, then said quietly, "I hope so. But until then, we hold on, like these stones." His words stayed with me, all the way back through the dark streets, and I realized something. Jerusalem is not just a place of conflict. It is a place of continuity, where the past walks beside you, where the future is built on ancient ground, where a single stone can carry 1,000 years of hope. Chapter 3: The Ottoman Years and British Rule. 400 years. That's how long the Ottoman Empire ruled Jerusalem. 400 years. It's hard to imagine, but in this city, time moves differently. It stretches, bends, like a river through stone. The year was 1517. Ottoman soldiers entered the city. No big battle, no fire, just the slow turn of history. Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent became the new ruler. And yes, he left his mark. If you walk through Jerusalem today, you'll see his work with your own eyes. The walls around the old city? He built them, stone by stone. The gates, the fountains, the quiet feeling of order, all came from those early Ottoman years. Some people said, there was peace. And it's true. For a while. Life moved slowly. Markets opened, pilgrims came, Jews, Christians, Muslims. Each group had its place. Each one watched the city change. But peace is not always easy. And under the surface, there was struggle. Many families were poor. Some lived in crowded rooms, cold in winter, hot in summer. Water was not clean. Food was not always enough. And those who ruled lived far away in Istanbul. The city was holy, but it was tired. Time passed. Years turned to decades. And then, something began to shift. In the late 1800s, new ideas blew into Jerusalem like the desert wind. Zionism, nationalism, revolution. People were dreaming, and people were afraid. Jews from Europe started coming, buying land, building schools, speaking Hebrew. Some called it hope. Others called it danger. The Ottomans watched, but they didn't stop it. Then came World War I. A war so big, it shook the world, and in 1917, the Ottomans finally left. British soldiers arrived. They marched through the city gate, and everything changed. A new power, a new promise, and new problems. The British promised many things. To Jews, they said, "We support your homeland." That was the Balfour Declaration. To Arabs, they said, "We support your independence." To the world, they said, "We will protect the holy places." But in truth, they could not please everyone. And in Jerusalem, everyone was watching. The 1920s came, then the 30s. The city grew, new roads, new buildings, cafes, schools, train stations. Jerusalem looked modern, but inside, it was burning. Clashes began. Jewish immigrants were growing in number. Palestinian Arabs felt pushed aside. Anger, fear, whispers of war. The British built police stations. They added soldiers. They tried to keep order. But something was breaking. Something deep. One afternoon, I met an old man near Jaffa Gate. He said, "I was a boy during the British time. We heard the bells from the churches, the calls to prayer from the mosques, the cries from the markets, and then the sound of guns." He looked away, then said quietly, "We didn't understand the politics. We just wanted peace." In 1936, a great Arab revolt began. 3 years of violence, strikes, explosions, tears. And the British? They struggled, tried to hold the city together. But their grip was slipping. They realized Jerusalem was not just a city. It was a storm. By the 1940s, war was coming again. World War II exploded across Europe, and in its dark shadow, millions of Jews were killed. The Holocaust. More survivors came to Palestine. More refugees. More tension. The British didn't know what to do. Too much pressure. Too much blood. And in 1947, they gave up. They said, "We're leaving." And they did. The British packed their bags and left the city behind. But Jerusalem does not wait for peace. As soon as the British left, the city fell into war. A new war. A war for control, for identity, for life. But that is a story for the next chapter. For now, close your eyes and imagine a city filled with dreams and dust, with ancient stones and foreign flags. A city where empires rise and fall. And always Jerusalem stands. Chapter 4. The Birth of Israel and the First War. It happened in one night. A line was drawn and everything changed. It was May 14th, 1948. A small group of Jewish leaders met in Tel Aviv. The room was quiet, but the moment was loud. David Ben-Gurion stood up. He looked around. He read the words slowly. "We hereby declare the establishment of a Jewish state in the land of Israel. It shall be called the State of Israel." Some people danced. Some cried. Some fell to their knees. It was the dream they waited for. For 2,000 years, after pain, after exile, after the Holocaust, the Jewish people finally had a home. But that same night, in another home, a Palestinian family sat in silence. They had heard the radio. The mother whispered, "What will happen to us now?" The father held his son close. His eyes were full. Outside. Gunshots. Far at first. Then closer. The next morning, war began. 5 Arab armies entered the land: Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq. They said, "This land belongs to the Palestinians." But Israel said, "We will defend our new country." And so, brother turned against brother, neighbor against neighbor. Streets became battlegrounds. Fields became fire. And Jerusalem? Jerusalem became the heart of the storm. I spoke once to a woman named Layla. She was just a girl in 1948. She told me, "One night, we saw lights on the hills, and then we heard the bombs. My mother screamed. We took only a few things and ran." I asked, "Where did you go?" She said, "We didn't know. We just ran and never came back." More than 700,000 Palestinians fled or were forced from their homes. They called it the Nakba, the catastrophe. Villages were emptied. Houses were taken. Keys were kept, but doors were lost. Some still carry those keys, even now. On the other side, Jewish families danced in the streets. For them, it was a miracle, a new life, a safe land, a return to history. We have waited for this, they said. We are home. And yet, the war continued. Jerusalem was under siege. Food was low. Water was cut. People hid in cellars. Children slept in fear. Mosques, churches, synagogues, all caught in the crossfire. By the time the war ended in 1949, the city was no longer whole. Jerusalem was divided. The western part belonged to Israel. The eastern part, including the old city, was held by Jordan. A wall was built, barbed wire, snipers on rooftops, and families were split in two. I met a man once. He was standing near the old no man's land. He said, "My sister lived 10 minutes away, but for 19 years, I could not see her. We wrote letters, but I never knew if she got them." He looked past the wall and added, "Can a city survive with a broken heart?" That's what Jerusalem became. A city with a broken heart. One side Jewish, one side Arab, one side free, one side waiting. But the faith never left. Every Friday, Muslims filled the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Every Saturday, Jews prayed at the edge of the wall. Every Sunday, bells rang from church towers. The sounds of faith still filled the air. But the sounds of war never stopped. People held on to hope, but also pain. Memories became weapons. Stories became borders. And yet, some still believed that the wall could fall, that peace could come, that Jerusalem could be whole again. Years later, Layla told me something I'll never forget. She said, "I still dream of our house. I see the door. I hear my father's voice. And sometimes, just sometimes, I dream that I walk through it again." She paused, looked at me, and said, "Maybe the house is gone, but the dream still lives." The birth of one nation, the loss of another. Two truths, two hearts, one city, divided but never silent. Chapter 5. East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem. I stood in front of the wall, cold, tall, silent, and yet it spoke. It said, "This is where one city becomes two." After the War of 1948, Jerusalem was divided. East Jerusalem was taken by Jordan. West Jerusalem was controlled by Israel. Two sides, two governments, two different worlds, but one soul, still beating, still waiting. They built fences, they placed guards, they marked borders with wires, and fear. And suddenly, families were no longer families. A mother on one side, her son on the other. A brother in the west, his sister in the east. They could wave from far away, but they could not cross. I met a woman named Miriam. She lived in West Jerusalem. One afternoon, she showed me an old photo. 2 girls, arms around each other, smiling. "That's me," she said, "and that's Hanan, my best friend, from East Jerusalem." She touched the picture gently. "She gave me this just before the wall went up. We were 12. Now I'm 70. I asked, "Did you ever see her again?" She looked down, then shook her head. "No," she whispered, "only in dreams." In West Jerusalem, the streets were wide. New homes, new schools, cafes with music and laughter. It was modern, full of energy. But also full of soldiers. Checkpoints, uniforms, guns at every gate. The city was growing, but something was missing. Something ancient, something sacred. The heart of the old city was on the other side. In East Jerusalem, time felt different. The roads were older, the houses quieter, the sky a little heavier. The Al-Aqsa Mosque stood tall. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre welcomed pilgrims. Markets buzzed with the smell of bread and hope. But under it all, there was tension. Jordan ruled the East. But many Palestinians lived there, and they remembered the land they lost, the homes they left behind. A man named Yusuf invited me to his shop in the old city. He made leather sandals by hand, slowly, with care. He told me, "My grandfather worked this shop before me. We are part of these streets." I asked, "Do you ever go to the other side? West Jerusalem?" He smiled, but his eyes were tired. "I haven't been there in 20 years, he said. "My cousin lives there. We speak on the phone sometimes, but the wall between us is more than stone." And it was true. The wall was not just concrete. It was fear. It was history. It was grief. But the city did not forget itself. On Fridays, the sounds of prayer floated over the roofs. On Saturdays, songs rose from behind closed windows. On Sundays, the church bells rang again and again. Jerusalem was still Jerusalem, broken but breathing. And sometimes, just sometimes, people crossed the line. A doctor from the West treated a patient from the East. A teacher shared a book in 2 languages. A boy passed a football to another, over the fence. Small things, quiet things, but powerful. I remember a moment, clear as day. I was walking along the old line, between East and West, and I saw a child, no more than 10. He stood alone, holding a kite, red, blue, yellow. The wind was strong. He lifted the kite high, and it flew. Across the sky, over the wall, and for one moment, there was no east, no west, just wind, and a child's joy, and a city looking up. Jerusalem was waiting for the wall to fall, waiting for hands to reach across, waiting for prayers to become peace. Miriam said to me, "Sometimes I stand on my balcony at night, and I look toward the east. I imagine Hanan doing the same thing." She smiled, then added, "We're both old now, but our friendship still lives. 2 cities, 1 soul, east and west, walking in different shoes, but standing on the same holy ground." Chapter 6. Al-Aqsa and the Sacred Rock. At the center of Jerusalem, there is a hill, a place so powerful, so sacred, that the world holds its breath when it hears its name. Muslims call it Al-Haram Al-Sharif. Jews call it the Temple Mount. But before anything else, it is holy ground, stone and sky, faith and fire. One morning, just after sunrise, I walked up the slope. The sun touched the city with gold. The air was still. Then I saw it. Al-Aqsa Mosque, wide, strong, silent, and just behind it, the dome of the rock, its golden roof glowing in the morning light, so bright. I had to close my eyes for a second. My guide was a young man named Amir. He whispered, "This is the heart of our faith. The Prophet Muhammad came here in one night from Mecca. He prayed here. Then he rose to heaven." He looked up at the sky. That moment still lives in our hearts. We took off our shoes, stepped inside Al-Aqsa. It was quiet, cool, the smell of old stone and prayer. A few men were sitting, reading the Quran. Their voices rose like soft rivers. I sat down too, not to pray, but to feel, and I felt something deep, older than time. A peace, but also a sadness. Because here, on this same hill, others pray too. Jews believe this is where the first temple stood, built by King Solomon, and the second temple destroyed long ago. They believe that this exact place is where God touched the earth, where heaven met the world. One afternoon, I met a Jewish man named Eli. He wore a kippah, held a small book in his hands. We stood near the western wall, just below Al-Aqsa. He said, "We cannot go up there freely, but we pray here because our souls are tied to that hill." He placed his hand on the stones, closed his eyes. We wait. We always wait. 2 people, 2 stories, 1 hill. Later that day, I stood between them, not as a judge, not as a believer, but as a human being, trying to understand. And the truth? This place is more than buildings, more than history. It is memory, it is faith, it is longing. And longing can be beautiful, but it can also burn. Because people fight for what they love. In 2000, a visit by a politician to the Hill caused chaos. protests, stones, tear gas. The Second Intifada began, a wave of violence, years of pain. Why? Because the sacred hill was touched, because hearts were wounded. Even today, when tensions rise, they rise here first. A rumor, a visit, a word in the wrong place, and suddenly, the whole world is watching. But behind the news, behind the politics, there are people. A boy selling tea outside the gate, a girl carrying books to her school nearby, a mother praying with her eyes closed, a soldier watching with tired eyes, each one carrying something invisible: hope, fear, faith. Amir said to me once, "When I walk here, I feel proud, but I also feel afraid. Sometimes, I don't know which feeling is stronger." Eli said something similar. This place gives me peace, but also pain, because we're not together. What a strange thing, for something holy to bring so much sorrow. But maybe it's because the love is so strong. Jerusalem is a city of questions, but here, on this hill, one question rises above them all. Can we share the sacred? Can we kneel side by side without fear, without hate? One evening, I saw something I will never forget. The sun was setting. The call to prayer began. And from the other side, I heard a Jewish man singing softly. 2 voices, 2 prayers, at the same time. Not loud, not angry, just present. And for one small moment, the city felt whole. This hill has seen kings and empires. It has seen blood and silence. But maybe it is waiting. Waiting for footsteps that do not rush, for voices that do not shout, for hands that reach across Al-Aqsa, the sacred rock, the Temple Mount, Al-Haram al-Sharif. One place, many names, one sky above, one earth below, and maybe, one day, one peace. Chapter 7. People of the city, Muslims, Jews, Christians. They say Jerusalem is made of stone. But that's not true. Jerusalem is made of people. I learned this, not from a book, but from a morning walk through the old city. It was early. Shops were still closed. The air was cool, fresh, and the streets already full of life. A Muslim woman walked past me, a basket of bread on her head. She smiled, said, "Sabah al-Khair," good morning. A few steps later, a Jewish boy ran by, holding a bag of oranges. He waved, said, "Boker Tov," good morning. Then, I passed a small church. A man stood at the door, crossed himself, and whispered, "Peace be with you." 3 people, 3 faiths, 1 street, 1 city. But life here is not always peaceful. In this city, some people walk with fear, some carry memories of war of loss, of waiting. I met a girl named Rana, a Palestinian. She was 17. Her eyes were full of fire and sadness. My family lives in East Jerusalem, she told me, but my school is near the wall. I pass 2 checkpoints every day. Sometimes they stop me. Sometimes they don't. It depends on their mood. She paused, looked down. It's not easy, but I still study, because one day I want to be a doctor. I want to heal people. I was silent. What could I say? Sometimes the bravest hearts are the quietest. Later that day, I met Daniel, a young Jewish soldier. He stood near a checkpoint, hand on his rifle, but his face, not hard, not cold. I asked him, "Do you like this job?" He didn't answer at first, just stared out at the street. Then he said, "I don't like it, but I have to do it. We're afraid too, you know. We also have mothers, sisters, lives." He looked tired. People think we don't feel, but I feel every day. One city, so many hearts, each one carrying something, a story, a fear, a hope. In the Christian quarter, I met Father Elias. He walked slowly, with a cane, but his eyes were sharp. He said, "I've lived in Jerusalem for 80 years. I've seen war, I've seen peace, I've seen people change and stay the same." He smiled, a sad smile. Sometimes I walk to the Western Wall. Sometimes I sit near Al-Aqsa, not to preach, just to listen. He leaned closer. "Do you know what I hear?" I shook my head. He whispered, "The same prayers, in different words." Not far from there, a group of children played in the street. A Muslim boy, a Jewish girl, a Christian child with curly hair. They didn't care who was who. They just played. They laughed. Until a man nearby shouted, "Come inside." And the moment ended. I walked on, thinking of those children. How quickly we teach them fear. How easily we forget. We were all born with open hearts. I saw a mural on a wall. It said, "We are not enemies. We are neighbors." But the wall had bullet holes. The words were faded. Still, they were there. Still, they spoke. That night, I sat at a cafe near Damascus Gate. Lights were soft. The city felt quiet. An old man played the oud, a soft, sad song. At the next table, 2 women were talking. One wore a hijab. The other had a Star of David necklace. They were drinking tea, laughing. Friends. Yes, it's rare. But it happens. Jerusalem can still surprise you. The people of this city, they carry heavy stories, but they also carry beauty and kindness. I met a baker who gave free bread to hungry children, a rabbi who helped clean a mosque after an attack, a priest who held hands with a Muslim imam during a funeral. These things don't make the news, but they are real. and they matter. Jerusalem is not just a city of faith. It is a city of faces, and in every face, there is a memory, a prayer, a wound, a dream. As I walked home that night, I looked at the windows above me. Some were open, some closed, lights on, lights off. But in each home, someone was living, loving, hoping, hurting, just like me, just like you. Jerusalem is not only stone, it is skin, it is soul, it is people. Chapter 8. Tension, Checkpoints, and Daily Life. It was 6 a.m., still dark, still quiet. Then, the alarm rang. Another day began. Layla, a high school student, opened her eyes. She looked at the clock. She had 30 minutes to catch the bus. She got dressed fast, grabbed her school bag, kissed her mother on the cheek, and ran out the door. The bus took her toward the checkpoint, and she waited, with others, some standing, some sitting, some silent. The line moved slowly. Soldiers checked ID cards, one by one. A woman behind Layla whispered, "Will we make it on time today?" Layla didn't answer. She never knew. When her turn came, she showed her paper. The soldier looked at it, looked at her, then waved her through. No words, just a hand. She exhaled. She was through, but her day had just begun. In West Jerusalem, a boy named David was eating breakfast. His mother packed his lunch. His father read the news. David looked at the headlines. There was tension again. There was always tension. "Don't take the light rail today," his mother said. "Walk. It's safer." David nodded. He understood. He always understood. On the way to school, he passed a police car. 2 officers stood watching. Everyone walked a little faster. No one said anything, but you could feel it, in the eyes, in the silence. Later that day, in the old city, the market came alive. Spices in baskets, colors hanging from the walls, voices calling, "Fresh bread! Come, try this. Welcome, my friend." It looked normal, beautiful even. Tourists laughed, children played, vendors joked with each other. But if you listened closely, you could hear something else. A whisper beneath the laughter, a watchfulness behind the smiles. I saw it in the way people checked the corners, the way they paused before crossing the street, the way the shopkeepers' eyes followed every uniform. The city was smiling, but it was also holding its breath. At the same time, in a small apartment in East Jerusalem, Nabil, a father of 3, was watching the news. He lit a cigarette, didn't smoke it, just held it. His wife asked, "Will the roads be open today?" He shrugged. "I don't know." He had work on the other side of the city, but work meant crossing checkpoints, waiting, explaining, praying, and sometimes going home with nothing. Still, he stood up, put on his jacket, and left. Because that's what people do here. They try. Every day, even when the world doesn't see them. That evening, Layla returned home. Her mother was cooking. Her little brother was drawing on the wall. Again, she smiled, tired, but home. "Did you have a good day?" her mother asked. Layla paused, then said, "I passed the test." Her mother kissed her forehead. That's all that matters. In West Jerusalem, David played guitar on his balcony. The sun was setting. The air was soft. His younger sister danced to the music. For a moment, everything felt normal, peaceful. But he knew, tomorrow, it could change. Jerusalem is like that. 1 minute, joy. The next, fear. One side of the city laughs. The other cries. And then, the next day, it switches. No one knows what will happen. So people hold on to the small things. A meal, a laugh, a safe return. I once asked an old man in a coffee shop, "Do you ever get used to this tension?" He looked at me, slowly stirred his sugar, and said, "Number you, just learn to live with it." Another woman told me, "Every morning I say 2 prayers, one for my family and one that nothing explodes today." She wasn't joking, but she wasn't crying either. She was surviving. Still, there is beauty in the call to prayer at sunset, in the sound of church bells at dawn, in the laughter of children chasing cats down alleyways. Jerusalem is alive, exhausted, but alive. And in the middle of all the tension, there is love. Between friends, between neighbors, even between strangers. Love doesn't shout here. It doesn't wear a flag. It waits, quietly, in small hands, in soft words, in long walks home. Yes, Jerusalem is full of walls, gates, guns, rules. But behind all of that, there are people trying to live, trying to breathe, trying to hold on. And somewhere deep inside this heavy city, hope still sleeps. Not dead, just waiting for someone to wake it up. Chapter 9. Can peace ever come? I've asked this question many times. Can peace ever come? I've asked it while standing at a checkpoint, while watching a mother cry, while hearing a boy laugh in the middle of sirens. I've asked it in silence and in tears. Many leaders have tried. They met in tall buildings. They wore suits. They shook hands. They smiled for cameras. They signed papers. Peace deals, agreements, declarations. And for a moment, we believed. But peace is not made on paper. It is made in hearts, in homes, in streets. And that is much harder. Why? Because there are too many wounds, too many graves, too many names whispered at night when no one is listening. Fear is heavy in this city. It walks beside people, sits beside them, sleeps with them. Jews remember the Holocaust. Palestinians remember the Nakba. And memories, they do not disappear. Still, some people never give up. I met a woman named Noura. She lost her brother in the last war, but she teaches peace to children. She said, "I don't want my pain to grow inside them. I want to give them something better, even if I'm still broken." She smiled, and I saw something in her eyes. Strength. Then I met Yaakov, a Jewish man who lost his son in an attack. He leads a group of parents, Israeli and Palestinian, who meet, talk, and cry together. He told me, at first I hated. It was easy, but then I saw another father crying, just like me, and I understood. We are the same. Mothers, fathers, teachers, children. The people with the most pain often carry the most hope. In one small school, Arab and Jewish students study together. They learn each other's language, each other's holidays, each other's history. One girl, Layla, said, "At first, I was scared. I thought they were different. But now, my best friend is Jewish." She laughed. "I taught her to dance, Dabke. She taught me Hebrew songs." Hope doesn't always arrive with trumpets. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a seed in dry soil. Small, software easy to miss, but strong. Still, not everyone believes. Some say it's too late. It's impossible. They will never change. And sometimes I understand them. Sometimes I feel that too. Because how can you forgive when your house is gone? When your son is in jail? When your school was bombed? When your street is full of soldiers? Peace feels far. Like a star you can see, but never touch. But then, someone offers you tea. Someone holds a door open. Someone listens. And you feel it again. That small, dangerous, powerful word. Hope. I once walked into a cafe in West Jerusalem. Sat down beside two old men playing chess. One was Palestinian. One was Jewish. I watched them move their pieces, silent, focused. Then the Palestinian man said, "You always take my bishop." The Jewish man smiled, "Because you always leave it open." They laughed. And so did I. Later I asked them, "How long have you known each other?" "Since 1965, one said. "We fought once over a tomato. Now we fight only on the chessboard." Peace does not always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like two men playing chess. Yes, the road is long and broken and full of shadows. But I've seen candles in the dark. I've heard songs rise above the noise. I've watched hands reach across walls. Not many, but enough to say, peace is still possible. One olive tree, one handshake, one school with 2 languages, one child who dreams instead of fears. It starts small, but that's how everything starts. So, can peace ever come? I still don't know, but I believe it can begin, here, now, with someone like you, someone like me. Because the soil is hard, but the seed is ready, and hope knows how to grow. Chapter 10. The Spirit of Jerusalem. What is Jerusalem? A city? A dream? A promise? It is all of that, and more. It is a place of stone and soul, of silence and song. It breaks hearts. It heals them. It holds you, and it never lets you go. I remember my last night in the city. The sky was soft. The stars were just beginning to appear. I stood on a rooftop near the old city. Below me, the lights of Jerusalem glowed like candles. And the sound? Oh, the sound. The call to prayer, rising from a minaret. The church bells ringing in the distance. A Jewish song floating from a window. 3 faiths, 1 city, 1 moment. And me? Just standing there, trying to hold it all in my heart. You see, Jerusalem is not just a city you visit. It's a city that enters you. It stays in your thoughts. It changes your questions. It whispers to you when the world is quiet. I met a woman named Salma before I left. She was a tour guide and a poet. She said, "Jerusalem speaks many languages, but the heart hears them all." I asked her, "What is the spirit of this place?" She looked up at the sky, then smiled. It's the sound of tears and prayers in the same breath. Later that day, I walked through the Jewish quarter. Children played in the narrow streets. An old man studied the Torah near the wall. He didn't notice me. He was deep in thought. His hand rested on the stone. He whispered something, and I knew he was not speaking to the stone, but to God. Then I crossed into the Muslim quarter. The smell of spices filled the air. Boys ran with soccer balls. A father carried his daughter on his shoulders. And there it was, the Golden Dome, still shining, still proud. A woman walked by, holding prayer beads. Her lips moved softly. She was not speaking to me. She was speaking to heaven. In the Christian quarter, I entered the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Candles burned low. A group of pilgrims kneeled together. One woman touched the stone with her fingertips, then kissed it. She cried, and the tears. They were not just hers. They were the city's. Everywhere I looked, I saw something sacred, not because of gold, not because of power, but because of faith, because of how much people believe, even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when the world gives up. Jerusalem still believes. This city has seen war, so many wars, blood on its streets, fire on its roofs, tears in its homes, and yet it still stands. Why? Because it has something stronger than stone. It has a spirit. And that spirit never dies. It lives in the silence between prayers. It lives in the eyes of mothers. It lives in the dreams of children. Some dreams are of peace, some of return, some just of a normal life. But all of them are filled with Jerusalem. Before I left, I visited a small cafe one last time. The owner, Hassan, brought me tea. He said, "You've seen the holy places, but have you seen the people?" I nodded. "I've tried." He smiled, then said, "Good." Because the spirit of Jerusalem is not in the stones, it's in the people who walk between them. And I believed him. Because in this city, I saw hate, but I also saw kindness. I saw fear, but also love. I saw soldiers and peacemakers, checkpoints and olive branches. Jerusalem is not perfect. It is wounded. It is tired. It is waiting. But it is also alive and still, so full of light. As my taxi left the city that night, I looked back one last time and I whispered, "Shalom, Salam, peace." Not just to the city, but to the people, to the soul, to the spirit. Because Jerusalem, it lives in more than maps. It lives in the heart, in every person who has ever loved or lost or hoped. So what is Jerusalem? A city? A dream? A promise? Yes. But it is something else, too. Something no wall can hold, no war can break, no time can erase. It is the spirit that burns and believes, the spirit that cries and sings, the spirit that whispers to the world again and again, "I am still here."